My name is Clara Moreno, and I am 32 years old. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who would cancel a mortgage payment out of spite. But sometimes spite is just another name for survival. It started 2 weeks before Christmas. I was on my lunch break eating a cold tuna sandwich at my desk, trying to finish up the last interior layout for a boutique hotel project I'd been freelancing on for 3 months. I called my dad like I always did in December. Not because I was invited, but because I still believed somehow that asking meant I cared, that it meant something. I put my phone on speaker and let it ring as I sipped lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug. He picked up after the third ring. "Clara," he said in that distracted tone he always used when someone else was in the room. "Hi, Dad." I smiled. "Just checking in. Any plans for Christmas? Should I book a flight to Spokane?" There was a pause, the kind that stretches so long you already know the answer before it arrives. "We're keeping it small this year," he said. "Just immediate family. You know how busy things have been? Marissa has been helping so much with the house and, well, she and Rachel are hosting." Marissa, my stepsister, the daughter of his second wife, the woman I barely spoke to who now lived in the same house I helped design, the same one I paid the mortgage for every month for the past 4 years. "Immediate family," I repeated. "Got it, Clara," he said. But it was too late. The silence had already spoken for us. I ended the call, politely told him to enjoy the holidays, and sat there staring at my laptop like it had betrayed me. Outside, Portland rain fell in soft sheets against my apartment window. I could hear the neighbors arguing about grocery lists through the paper-thin walls. Normal things, family things. I closed the window on my hotel renderings, opened my banking app, and stared at the automatic transfer scheduled for December 15th. $2,600. Same as every month. It wasn't just a payment. It was a ritual, a penance I'd been paying since my mother passed away, and my dad, consumed by grief and pride, had begged for help. "Just until we're stable again," he had said. "You've always been the responsible one." And I had been. I'd lived modestly, worked 2 jobs, and said no to vacations, luxury, even dating. I paid for their down payment, helped with renovations, and designed every square inch of the place they now hosted parties in without me. I was responsible, but I was also invisible. That night I sat on the floor of my apartment surrounded by files, receipts, payment records, old emails, design mock-ups. I wasn't angry yet. Anger requires hope. I was just tired of pretending I was part of a family that only remembered me when bills were due. I thought about the kitchen in their house, the kitchen I had drawn on paper, the one I had found the tiles for, the one where they now drank wine and made toasts I'd never hear. Immediate family. The words echoed louder than any insult ever could. The next morning I woke up before sunrise, brewed a fresh pot of strong coffee, and called the bank. The hold music was cheerful, holiday-themed, completely at odds with the resolve building in my chest. When the agent finally answered, I gave her my account number and said the words I never thought I'd say. "I need to cancel an automatic transfer." She asked if I wanted to suspend it temporarily. "No," I said. "Cancel it. Permanently." 2 hours later, I received the confirmation email. Just like that, it was done. I half expected the sky to crack open, or my phone to ring. But it didn't, not that day, or the next. What did come, though, was silence, heavy and clean, and with it, something else I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. Real power. The kind you don't have to raise your voice to feel. The kind that comes from choosing yourself over the illusion of belonging. I didn't tell anyone. I just lived my life. I bought fresh groceries, picked up a new pair of winter boots I'd needed for 3 years, and even called my friend Jamie to plan a New Year's trip to Seattle. 2 days later, I woke up to 18 missed calls. My dad, Marissa, unknown numbers. One voicemail that started with "Clara, what the hell did you do?" and ended with, "You've made a huge mistake." But the only mistake I had made was not doing it sooner. I didn't always think of myself as someone capable of walking away. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would have told you that family was everything. That love meant sacrifice, even if it was lopsided, especially if it was lopsided. I was raised to be the one who gave without being asked, the one who fixed what was broken without waiting for thanks. I was my mother's daughter. My mom Elena died when I was 24. Ovarian cancer. It was brutal and fast, and it left a hollow space in our house that nothing could ever refill. I moved back from grad school for almost a year. To care for her, took a leave from my internship and watched the strongest woman I knew disappear piece by piece. After she passed my dad, Howard unraveled in slow motion. He drank too much, stopped paying the bills, and let the house fall apart. I took over everything. Paid off the overdue mortgage, settled the funeral costs, and even helped him stabilize his failing construction business by offering free design consultations. That's how I met Heather, his second wife. A woman with a glossy smile half his age who had opinions on everything and expertise in nothing. 6 months after Mom died, they were engaged. 9 months later, married. She brought a daughter from a previous relationship, Marissa, who was 2 years younger than me, but somehow always managed to act like I was the outsider. At first I tried. I really did. I helped Heather pick out new curtains. I redesigned the living room so she could feel at home. I even gave Marissa my old MacBook so she could finish community college, but it was never enough. There were digs, little ones. Clara's so intense. Clara's a bit controlling. Clara always needs to be in charge. It didn't matter that I was the only one paying the bills, or that I worked 60 hours a week while they went to brunch and yoga. When they bought a new house, my dad, Heather, and Marissa, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would even out. They asked me for help with the down payment. Just a loan, my dad said. We'll pay you back. They never did. Instead, the loan became an expectation. I started paying the mortgage directly because my dad's business kept hitting a rough patch. I paid for the designer furniture Heather wanted, the outdoor grill Marissa insisted they needed for entertaining, and the new fridge that had to match the oven. I wasn't living there. I wasn't visiting often, but I was funding it, like some invisible investor in a company that didn't acknowledge my shares. I justified it for years, told myself it was what Mom would have wanted, that maybe if I kept giving, I'd eventually earn my place back. But that's the thing about families that feed on guilt. They're never full. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being a daughter and became a credit line with a pulse. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Portland, worked from home, and kept my head down. I didn't complain when Christmas invitations stopped coming or when birthdays were forgotten. I was the quiet one, the stable one, the one who didn't need anything. And that's exactly how they liked me. Silent, useful, absent. I hadn't realized how deep the rot had gone until that call, until just immediate family landed like a slap across my face. I wasn't asking for a red carpet. I wasn't even asking for special treatment. I just wanted to sit at the same table to be seen. But they didn't see me. Not really. They saw the money I sent, the sacrifices I made, and the space I filled when it was convenient. Not the person. Not the daughter. Not the woman who gave up years of her life trying to hold together a family that resented her presence. That's the thing about being underestimated for so long. People forget you're capable of anything other than compliance. But I am my mother's daughter, and she taught me two things: never beg to be loved and always leave with dignity. I had given them everything, and now I was taking it back, one decision at a time. The day after the voicemail, I didn't respond. Not because I was trying to make a point, but because I didn't trust myself not to scream. My phone lit up every hour. Messages from my dad, from Marissa, from numbers I didn't recognize. "This isn't funny, Clara. You're ruining everything. You've always been selfish." That last one was from Heather. I almost laughed. Me, selfish. I made a pot of tea, sat down at my desk, and opened the folder I'd been building quietly for months. It started as a backup just in case they forgot. The receipts, the bank transfers, the PayPal notes, the Venmo screenshots, all the silent proof of what I'd done, what I'd given. It wasn't just money. It was life energy. Years of saying no to myself so they could keep pretending everything was fine. I printed it all out. Every line item, every confirmation email. Then I started writing a summary document, a timeline, 4 years of financial support, $124,800 in mortgage payments, $15,000 in renovations, $7,000 in furniture, $2,400 for Marissa's community college tuition that she never finished, a total of $149,200. I labeled it investment with no return. I didn't send it yet. I just wanted to see it all in one place. Because sometimes when you see the numbers, you stop doubting your own memory. You stop justifying what was never okay to begin with. That night, I ordered takeout for the first time in months. Pad Thai extra spicy. I watched a documentary, painted my nails, and turned off my phone. I slept better than I had in years. By morning, I had 3 voicemails from my dad and 1 from Marissa. "We need to talk," she said. "You can't just ghost your family. You're being dramatic." I didn't answer. Instead, I went for a walk. The air was cold, but it felt good against my skin. Alive. Honest. I passed a bakery, bought myself a croissant, and sat in the park watching kids chase pigeons. It was the kind of peace you don't notice until you've lived without it for too long. Around noon, my work email pinged. A request for a new project, an eco-home redesign in Seattle. Well paid, flexible timeline. Solo project. It felt like the universe was whispering, "You're doing the right thing." That afternoon, I called the mortgage company. "Yes," the representative said, "the payment was declined this month. Do you want to reschedule?" "No," I said. "I want you to remove my name from the account entirely. I'm not a co-signer. I'm just the one who's been paying." "Understood," she said after a pause. "We'll mark your file as inactive." It was done. Just like that. No fanfare, no collapse. Just a quiet click on a keyboard and a new beginning. 2 days later, the call stopped, but the email started. Heather wrote a long one about miscommunication and how we can find a middle ground. My dad sent a shorter one. "You've embarrassed me. People are asking questions." I didn't respond to either. I knew what came next. It always came in the same order. Denial, guilt-tripping, blame, and then retaliation. Sure enough, 3 days later, I got a message from a former colleague in Spokane. "Hey," it read, "saw something weird in the local journal. Are you okay?" Attached was a link to a community gossip column. The headline, "Local Daughter Cuts Family Off Days Before Christmas." It was a fluff piece. Anonymous sources, a few well-placed quotes from a close family friend. "She's always been difficult," one said. "Never appreciated what she had." Another, "You can't help someone who doesn't want to be part of the family." No names, no facts, just enough poison to plant a story. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable, so obvious. I closed the tab, opened my folder, and began uploading everything to a secure cloud link. Evidence, context, truth. Because if they wanted to play dirty, I'd play smart. They thought I'd stay quiet. They thought I'd disappear. They had no idea who they were dealing with. By the end of that week, I had already made my decision. I wasn't going to just walk away and let them control the narrative. If they wanted to paint me as the villain, I'd hand them the brush and watch what they did with it, because I had something they didn't: receipts, patience, and nothing left to lose. I didn't want revenge for the sake of pain. I wanted clarity, exposure. I wanted people to see what I had seen for years and refused to acknowledge. So I waited. I watched. I studied. And then I saw it on Marissa's Instagram. A Christmas Eve dinner invite, all glitter and gloss. 12 guests, candlelit table. Moreno holiday bash, it read. Family, friends, and a night to remember. I remembered that table. I had picked it out. Custom designed walnut with carved legs. I remembered the lights, the chairs, even the chandelier above it. I had chosen all of it. The backdrop for my exclusion. That was when it clicked. They were going to host a dinner in the home I paid for around a table I designed while pretending I didn't exist. So I made a plan. I printed 12 folders, each with the same contents, payment records, mortgage receipts, a timeline of support, and yes, screenshots of every message, every email, every attempt I made to stay connected. At the front, I included a cover letter. "To whom it may concern, you are enjoying this evening, thanks to the silent contributions of someone you've never met. This is my story." I addressed each envelope by first name. Then I booked a rental car, a small black SUV with tinted windows, and drove to Spokane. No music, no podcasts. Just the sound of my own breathing and the occasional buzz of another voicemail I wasn't going to check. I arrived the afternoon of the 24th, parked 2 blocks from the house, and waited. I watched through the windows as guests arrived, coats taken wine, poured laughter filling the rooms I once knew by heart. I gave them time to settle. Then at 7:45 p.m., I got out of the car, folders in hand, and walked to the door. No knocking. I just turned the handle and stepped inside. It was still unlocked. Of course it was. Heather always said locks made the neighborhood feel unsafe. The warmth hit me like a wave fireplace glow, roasted meat, soft music. Conversation stopped the moment I stepped into the dining room. 12 heads turned. My dad stood up first, mouth already forming the word no. Marissa's face dropped. Heather clutched her wine glass like a weapon. "Good evening," I said, calm, clear. "Don't get up, I'm not staying, I just came to return something." I walked around the table, setting a folder in front of each guest. "Consider it your party favor." "Clara, what is this?" my dad asked, his voice tight. "It's what's been keeping this house warm for the last 4 years," I said. "What's been funding your holidays, your renovations, your lifestyle. It's the truth in black and white." Someone opened a folder. A woman I didn't recognize. Her eyes widened. Another followed. A man in a suit. Silence rippled across the table like a storm cloud. "You're making a scene," Heather hissed. "You weren't invited." "I know," I said. "That's why this matters." Marissa stood up. "You're ruining Christmas." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "No, I'm reclaiming it." I turned to the guests. "I'm not here to argue. I just wanted you to know that what you see tonight, this table, this house, this family performance, was built on someone else's back, mine. And when I finally stopped carrying the weight, they called me selfish." "Clara, enough," my dad snapped. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I pulled out the printed article, the one from the gossip column, and held it up. "This was your final gift to me? A smear campaign? A warning shot? And now this is mine to you. Truth, evidence, consequence." Heather's voice shook. "You're mentally unstable." I stepped closer. "I'm focused," which is more than I can say for the people who spent 4 years cashing my support without a second thought. I looked around the room one last time. "You all enjoy your dinner. You've already taken enough." Then I walked out, into the cold, into the dark. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The silence that followed me out the door was louder than any shouting match could have been. I got into my rental car, placed the remaining documents on the passenger seat, and drove to my hotel on the edge of town. It was nothing fancy, just a clean room with a view of a parking lot and the smell of industrial soap, but it was mine. Paid for with my own money, free of strings and expectations. That night I slept like a stone. No buzzing phone, no guilt chewing at my insides. Just quiet. Solid, unapologetic quiet. The next morning I woke up to chaos. 22 text messages, 11 voicemails, 3 missed calls from blocked numbers. My email was flooded with messages from names I didn't recognize. Subject lines like, "I had no idea, Clara, please call me and I'm so sorry." I didn't open them. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what they were. When someone sees the truth all at once, it shocks their system. The people at that dinner weren't angry because I made a scene. They were ashamed because I held up a mirror and they didn't like what they saw. Around noon, I got a call from a Spokane local reporter, Real Press this time. She had been forwarded the folder by a mutual contact. "I'd like to hear your side," she said. "No one seems to have asked for it." I agreed. Not for revenge, but because I was done being invisible. The article ran 2 days later. Front page of the Sunday paper, "Designer daughter speaks out, the hidden cost of family loyalty." It wasn't sensational. It was factual, quiet, devastating. It included the full breakdown of my financial contributions, screenshots of my exclusion, and a side-by-side comparison of my father's anonymous comments to the press and the truth printed in his own daughter's records. By Monday morning, the fallout had begun. My father's business, already shaky, lost 2 major clients. One of them emailed me directly. "We had no idea who was really behind his designs. If you're ever available, we'd love to talk." Marissa's Instagram went private. Heather posted a 3-paragraph message about privacy and family healing that ended with a quote from Oprah. It had 2 comments, both of them sarcastic. My phone stayed off for another week. When I finally turned it back on, I scrolled through the voicemails. One from my father stood out. "I guess you've made your point. I hope it was worth it." No apology, no acknowledgement. Just the familiar undertone of disappointment, like I had somehow embarrassed him by telling the truth. That's when I realized he never saw me as an adult. Not really. Not someone with agency or boundaries. Just a daughter-shaped utility meant to be loyal and quiet and grateful for scraps. But those days were gone, and in their place was a new story. One where I was no longer a supporting character in someone else's performance, but the author of my own piece. The first time I smiled that week without bitterness was when I saw a forwarded email from one of my dad's former partners. It was short and to the point. "Clara, if you're ever interested in working on commercial interiors in Seattle, we have a spot for someone with your level of integrity and grit." Integrity and grit. 2 words no one in my family had ever used to describe me. They preferred dutiful intense too much. But those words didn't sting anymore. I had stepped out of their frame. The calls began slowing down by New Year's. Heather sent one more message, something about misunderstandings and too much holiday stress, and how maybe in time we can rebuild. I didn't answer. Marissa tried a different tactic. She sent me a PayPal request for $400 labeled urgent groceries. I declined it with a note, "I no longer fund your lifestyle." She blocked me right after. My dad didn't call again. But that wasn't surprising. He didn't know how to reach for something he didn't feel entitled to. He only knew how to react when his control slipped. And this time, it wasn't slipping, it was gone. A week later, I received a letter from the bank addressed to Howard Moreno and Clara Moreno regarding the mortgage account. It was a final notice, 2 missed payments, risk of default. I took a photo of it and forwarded it to his email with no message attached. A few days passed and then the voicemails resumed. Short-clipped, desperate. "Call me. We need to fix this. You can't let the house go." But I could, and I would, because it wasn't my home anymore. It never really was. It was a set piece for their curated life, a museum of things I paid for but was never allowed to belong to. And now the cost of that illusion was coming due. At first, I felt guilt creeping in. Habitual guilt, the kind that lives in your muscles and bones after years of conditioning. But I fought it. I reminded myself of every time I swallowed pain in silence, every holiday I spent alone while they toasted to family, every sacrifice repaid with distance. I had done enough, more than enough, and now I was done. One morning I woke up to find my name trending on a niche architecture blog. Someone had shared the article, linked my portfolio, and called me the most quietly powerful voice in sustainable design you've never heard of. That same day, I got a call from a women-led development firm in California. They wanted to fly me out for a pitch. Not because I was the daughter of anyone, not because I was funding something in silence, but because of my work, because of me. That night, I poured myself a glass of the good wine I'd been saving since last Christmas, the one I didn't get to drink because I was home alone watching reruns. I sat on my tiny balcony, wrapped in a thick sweater, the Portland rain soft in the distance, and whispered aloud, "You did it." Not to brag, not to gloat, but to mark the moment. Because sometimes survival is quiet. Sometimes victory looks like not returning the call, not chasing the apology, not fixing what broke you. Sometimes it's choosing yourself and letting everything else fall. 3 weeks passed before I saw his name again. It came in the form of a knock. Not a phone call, not an email, an actual knock at my apartment door on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it halfway, and there he was, my father, standing on the mat in a wrinkled coat, his eyes hollowed out in a way I hadn't seen since after Mom died. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice quiet, almost careful. I stepped aside without speaking. He entered slowly, like the air inside my place might reject him. He looked around. I could tell he was trying to place everything to build a narrative in his head. The shelves filled with books, the blue couch I'd assembled myself, the framed photo of Mom on my desk. "It's nice," he said. "Simple." It's mine, I replied. He nodded, not knowing how to respond. I gestured for him to sit. He lowered himself onto the edge of the couch, hands clasped, avoiding my eyes. The house is in foreclosure, he said. I know, I answered. Marissa moved in with a friend. Heather's, well, we're not speaking. I waited. I'm not here to ask you for money, he said quickly. Good, I said, because that door is closed. He finally looked at me. You really meant it. I did, I said. You thought I wouldn't follow through. You've always come through, he muttered, even when I didn't deserve it. Exactly, I said. That's what changed. He rubbed his face, exhaled hard. I didn't know how bad it had gotten. I thought you were okay with it. No, you thought I wouldn't challenge it. You confused silence with approval. You're right, he admitted, voice cracking. You were right to stop. You were right to walk away. There was something in his face I hadn't seen in a long time, maybe ever. Shame, real unfiltered shame. I read the article, he said. I saw what you put together, the documents, the evidence. You didn't just cut me off, you told the truth. I had to, I said. You told yours first. In whispers, in half-truths and insinuations. You made me the villain. I just made the story whole. I don't blame you, he said. Not anymore. Good, I said. Because this isn't about blame. It's about reality. He leaned back slightly, eyes wet. I lost you, didn't I? I said you gave me away. Piece by piece. Every time you chose comfort over honesty. Every time you pretended I was too much, too difficult, too serious. You chose the version of me that made you feel less guilty, not the one standing in front of you. He didn't argue. He couldn't. I'm trying to be better, he said. It's late, but I want to try. I nodded. Then don't say it. Show it. Rebuild. Pay your own way. Apologize without excuses. If you want a relationship, earn it the way I had to earn my peace. He stood, slowly pulled his coat tighter. You really are your mother's daughter. I know, I said. She wouldn't have let this slide either. We stood in silence for a moment. Then he turned toward the door. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for finally listening, I said. When the door closed behind him, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear, like the air had shifted. Not because he changed, but because I did. The weeks after that conversation felt different. Not because everything was magically fixed, but because I no longer carried the weight of pretending. Pretending that I was okay being sidelined. Pretending that sacrifice without recognition still counted as love. The house was gone by mid-February, sold at auction, no grand statements, no public meltdown, just a quiet listing on a bank's website and a moving truck that came and went in less than 4 hours. Marissa never reached out again. Heather sent one last email, short and vaguely condescending, something about how sometimes growth means letting go. I deleted it without reading past the second sentence. My father sent a postcard from Bend. Handwritten. No apology, just a note I'm learning. Slowly. Hope you're well. I didn't respond. But I didn't throw it away either. I tucked it into the back of my journal right next to the copy of the mortgage confirmation letter that marked the end of an era. By spring, I had accepted the offer from the development firm in California. Remote contract work. Flexible hours. A creative team made of women who'd built their reputations from scratch just like me. I moved into a bigger place. Still modest, but filled with things I chose on purpose. Art I loved, furniture I built, books that made me feel seen. For the first time, my space felt like a reflection instead of a compromise. Easter came and went quietly. I spent it with my friend Jamie and her family, nothing fancy. Just real conversation, real laughter, and people who wanted me there, not because of what I could provide, but because of who I was. At the end of the night, her daughter gave me a handmade card with stickers on the front and misspelled words inside. It said, Miss Clara is the funnest grown-up I know. I cried in the car. Not because I was sad, but because I was so deeply, unexpectedly grateful. For years, I thought healing would come with dramatic closure, an apology, a reconciliation, some moment of cinematic justice. But healing came quietly, in choices, in boundaries, in the soft click of a deadbolt locking behind someone you no longer need to chase. My family didn't fall apart. It revealed itself. And when it did, I chose not to hold it together with my silence anymore. There's a photo on my desk now, me standing in front of a house I helped design for a single mother in Seattle. She'd saved for 7 years to build it, paid every dollar herself. The smile on her face when she unlocked her front door is the kind of joy you can't fake, the kind I'm chasing now. I still get emails sometimes from strangers who read my story. They say things like, "You helped me see it's okay to say no," or "I stopped funding my brother's life and I'm finally breathing." Those messages mean more to me than any invitation I never received. Because the truth is, we all have a breaking point, and we all deserve to decide what happens after. My father said I wasn't welcome for Christmas, so I left. I canceled the mortgage payment, and 2 days later, I had 18 missed calls. But I didn't go back. I built something better instead, for myself, with myself. And this time, no one gets to decide if I belong. I do. That's the story. Not of revenge, but of return, to dignity, to clarity, to me. The end.